Green flag for Eibach GLTC race 1 off into turn 1, 3 wide. And leaving turn 2 down into turn 3 here, Tom. The field straightening away. It's Matan Rosenberg out in front. And down into turn 3, Magnussen falls in trail.
It's a great start for Matt Waldbaum, though. Magnussen was able to get a run up underneath the backside from third position of Matan Rosenberg, and it was a poor jump from the inside on the low-powered Miata of Emil Tab. The field still sorting themselves out, double and triple wide through turn number 3, but the top 5 were able to go single file through there. They're going to get a little bit of a breakaway as we get down into the braking zone, a little over 130 miles an hour. Tab now coming back on the inside of Waldbaum is going to clear him easily into the braking zone, and another great start for both the next 2 cars in line. It's Aaron Lichty running a highly detuned C8 Corvette for its first weekend, and Kyle Hale was able to follow him through on a great start. It looks like that outside lane in general from first, third, fifth, and on, we're able to get a good start. Oh, it's a really slow dig up the hill for the Z3, and it's going to be a little bit of a cluster into turn 6.
Yeah, this was a trouble spot here last year. See Ryan Power there to the inside of Joel Morrison, then Michael Hilo chasing as well in the Eibach car. But nice, clean, tidy start for the first half of the lap here, Tom, and then down to turn 8.
Ooh, tight stuff between Peter Zhang and Matt Beck, but at the front, it's spreading out quickly. Tab was able to complete that thought entirely, and it's the big loser is actually Christian Aranha in the yellow Corvette, all the way down to 8th. Jack Wishmeyer also able to get up around Andy Smedegaard. I think all of those cars were on the inside lane at the start, so something delayed that inside lane from getting the jump. Maybe just the lower power Miata starting in the front of that group, but now mostly single file as we come through the kink for the first time. Another car to keep an eye on as Dana Baczynski looks to the inside of Salil Shukla is Baczynski. He had to do qualifying with essentially no brake pressure after an issue. He said, I'm going to get a lap time no matter what, and was able to safely complete a much slower lap than that car has paced for. That's the orange BRZ, not able to make the pass on Salil Shukla because they've got Michael Hilo in the way, and now they're going to go side by side up into turn 13.
Yeah, Baczynski trying to find his way around Austin Hurdle. We mentioned with the transmission issue that he sorted out earlier in the weekend with parts that he found on Facebook Marketplace. So put that car back together up the hill here. Matan Rosenberg quickly pulling away from Eric Magnussen. I'm not sure anyone's going to have the legs to keep up with him if they let him get away in this opening lap.
Yeah, and that's what we would expect. He was on pole by nearly 1.5 seconds, so just on raw pace, that Eibach Corvette should just kind of take off and leave everybody else, but Magnussen did what he needed to do to get a start up over Emil Tab. Tab has got straight line legs when he's got the draft, though. Look at that. Easily clears Magnussen down into turn number 1. That car is flying.
Whoa, big slide for Tab through turn 1, and he gathers it up. But almost wiped out. Magnussen will take advantage of that drop back to the inside. And Aaron Lichty in the C8 Corvette quickly pulling up on these drivers. That was a big moment.
Yeah, it was a big moment. And then there's got a really cool race happening behind them. It's Wishmeyer kind of holding up a little bit of the cork in the bottle for Smedegaard, Chat Troop, and one other car back there. I think it might have been Kyle Hale having dropped back slightly. We'll confirm that in the next shot. And then things have spread out very much so in the back. Continuing to pull out the gap, though, is Matan. Now let's see if Tab can hold the position on the brakes. No, he's going to give it up this time as Magnussen really buries that BMW down in there.
Yeah, he's really trying to keep Emil Tab behind him. Emil is definitely the little mighty car that could. And Matt Waldbaum had some braking issues yesterday here, Tom, trying to take advantage of the repair and move himself forward. There's Jack Wishmeyer to the inside of Lewis Chatroop into turn 6. But 4 cars fighting for second and leaving Matan Rosenberg to drive clear.
And a correction on that, Wishmeyer, it was Power on the back of that, and Morrison has joined it as well. But I'll point out, Emil Tab car looks small, but it's 2,700 pounds and pushing about 220 horsepower, which is very similar to the numbers of Matt Waldbaum, and not that far off of a majority of the field. So it is closer to the average than you'd expect. All that racing that they've done a couple of corners ago, Matt Waldbaum took a look, and that's going to delay their progress. Magnussen gets a little bit of a breakaway.
Yeah, leaving turn 10 now and heading up towards the kink for the first time. Aaron Lichty, 19% weight modifier on this C8 Corvette.
Look at Kyle Hale holding the outside of the carousel. Aranha's going to have to pinch the entry of this kink. Both cars going to come in side by side. Aranha takes the line, and Smedegaard has finally got free and clear of who he was with and is going to add some pressure to the back of this battle.
Yeah, there's Wishmeyer, Aranha, Chat Troop all in this pack here down to Canada Corner.
Actually, Wishmeyer is missing. That's the car I was looking for, and I can't find him. So the Civic, the J-swapped car that was in the front of that group, maybe some mechanical issues having dropped off, but now Smedegaard has some pressure from Chat Troop, has worked his way around the outside of Canada Corner. Meanwhile, this group has stagnated just slightly. Waldbaum not able to keep the pressure on the back of Emil Tab. I think Tab has got a really, really quick car, but he's in a position where it's going to be tough to race. Look at the rotation on the back of the C8. And Aranha off into the dirt.
Yeah, pushing really wide, and we've seen Christian be pretty wild with that car, just trying to extract all the speed he can out of it. Matan Rosenberg comes across the line, still the quickest car on the racetrack for the time being. We'll see if Magnussen can improve. But 5-second gap from Rosenberg to Magnussen, but this battle for second's pretty hot.
Now, Emil Tab had a huge run up that front straight due to the draft. I wonder if he's strategically trying to get it down the back straight so he can make the move into turn 5. He really didn't push it last lap. He kind of let Magnussen have the position. Now Smedegaard continues the pressure on the back of Kyle Hale, having cleared Lewis Chatroop, but that battle for 5th on back, or let's call it 6th on back really, is also raging. Ryan Power now adding pressure to the back of Chatroop in the black and neon green BMW. Morrison and Basinski has gotten clear after starting 18th, putting himself fairly close to the top 10.
Yeah, onto the backstretch again here. Emil Tab really fighting an uphill battle behind this big M3, but again, that car punches a pretty big hole in the air, which will help him draft up behind.
Magnussen just looking really good on the brakes down into 5 and getting a good run off as well. Waldbaum being smart to avoid the curbs. Those S2000s a little bit notorious for suspension failures. Their control arms, etc., fairly fragile for Road America. Trying to keep it clean without losing too much pace. Aaron Lichty, again, kind of opting to run this car in GLGT and TC under TC spec other than power and weight. Has really kind of pushed the limits of GLTC in the past. Was the first to bring in a car like a Porsche Cayman and is now going to prove his point with the first bringing in a car like a Corvette C8.
Yeah, interesting to just note the differences in the model years here between Emil's, NB generation MX-5 and a 2020, 5.4 C8 Corvette. So, 20 years to almost 30 years difference in model year age between those cars.
But Lichty taking a different approach to this model. He's running at about a 19% modifier, and it's not that the car is extra heavy. It's about 3,600 pounds, but he's gone with a fairly low power output. So that's why you might see Rosenberg's approach is obviously paying off exponentially more as he's pulled nearly 5 seconds plus out over the field. But Lichty's car is basically trying to make speed more similarly to how the rest of the field makes speed in his approach. That's what's radical about that C8, more so than the fact that it's a new car.
See if Emil can drive right back by Magnussen again on this front straightaway. A big lockup for Waldbaum into turn 14. This was the struggles he had yesterday. He managed to gather it up and keep it on the racetrack, but that could flat spot that right front tire, Tom.
Yeah, he's already flat spotted one of them, and they were speculating a rear wheel speed sensor caused that ABS failure in qualifying. He was able to get a lap in, but now he's going to have a little bit of confidence shaken for the rest of this race. You can still drive without the ABS, of course, but if you're used to it, you have to adjust all the rest of it, and that bent braking zone really became difficult. Emil Tab up the outside.
Yeah, here comes Emil again, trying to brake on the outside line. He's going to do it into turn 1 now, tosses it in, gets the pass done. Lichty pitching the car in hard into turn 1 behind Waldbaum.
We saw that car flicking around in GLGT qualifying the same. It looks like it's working those rear tires really hard with the mid-engine, and then that battle for 7th has really not calmed down. One car taking a peek to the inside. I think that's Smedegaard on Hale. And Hale looks to be a bit of the cork in the bottle. He's holding up Chatroop and Power and Morrison. Dana Basinski is MIA. We don't see that orange BRZ on track in line where it was either. He had been fighting braking issues. Maybe they've come back too.
Yeah, well, he crossed the line and had a lap time there. And full course, actually we have a standing yellow, at the front straight here. So not sure what that could be for, but here comes Lichty to the inside of Matt Waldbaum up towards turn 6. He's going to have overlap here side by side. That Corvette's much wider than the S2000 as well. Takes up a little more racetrack, but nice fair racing between these two.
The Corvette can't do it under the Corvette bridge. The S2000 is going to sweep back in front through turn 7, and this is the losing touch of the top 2. We're going to go full course yellow for whatever that problem is on the front straight. I have to wonder and speculate if Dana Basinski is involved or part of it. Because he is MIA from that top 10 battle. But Emil Tab got the job done at the exact right moment. He now sits in 2nd, and indeed it is Basinski with a significant amount of smoke coming out of that car. Heartbreaking for a driver that pushes so hard to make some of these races and had a ton of pace in practice. But again, Tab, if we don't go green or if we get a green flag late, he is now in the catbird seat to take the pressure to Matan Rosenberg, who had in 4 laps cleared the field by 8.6 seconds.
Yeah, so for sure. He gained a couple seconds on the opening lap, but some of that was also due to the fact that the second place drivers were fighting. So now on the restart, if we get one, he's going to have to really watch out for Emil Tab, who's a very savvy driver, has a lot of experience. In this build, it's relatively new, but it's already got a win under its belt. It's a very successful driver, very successful car. And I do think that Tabs can have something for Rosenberg, but you have to unseat him out of the lead. If you get him put back in traffic, Tom, we've seen this time and time again. Matan with clear racetrack is a different driver than Matan with cars in front. He leaves a little bit more safety margin there, and it's easier to beat him when you're already ahead of him.
It's obviously a reset for most of the field, but another driver that had a start he's not probably happy with, Aranha, sitting there in the 6th position, will now be up underneath the back of Lichty and the rest. Whether it's this race or the next race, he's got another go at it, but did a good job to recover from, I think, having fallen all the way down to potentially 8th on that first opening lap, taking Smedegard down there with him. Safety crew responding to Basinski, who is actually had the heads up still to get way out of the way and in basically the safest spot he probably could.
So this should be a pretty easy cleanup here. So I'm hoping that we don't have to spend too much time behind the safety car, maybe just a lap. But the driver's going to get lined back up again, and it's been pretty calm from about 5th place or 7th place on back. That top 10 battle's been pretty fierce.
Yeah, another big mover, Austin Hurley. You mentioned him after the transmission replacement, up from 16th to 13th, having picked up a couple of positions off of I think Blake Korth might have dropped back. Wishmeyer with a potential retirement. I think Hilo also has dropped back a little bit behind them. Salil Shukla picked up a couple of positions. These are all drivers in the 11th to 15th position or so. Again, 35 cars on track, and sure enough, we see Hilo and Wishmeyer both shown way down the order in the last positions with a couple laps lost.
Yeah, we haven't seen them trundle down the pit lane yet either, so some issues here for a couple of drivers. And this is a racetrack that's very hard on equipment, very hard on cars, Tom, so it's not surprising to see some mechanicals, but for Dana Basinski, that's going to be a heartbreaking one. Definitely looks driveline related, engine related on the front straightaway, but did a nice job pulling off.
See Matt Waldbaum there seems to be testing the braking after that shock to his confidence and that surprise of no ABS. You saw that big right front lockup, and he mentioned yesterday driving down the pit lane trying to get the brakes to lock up. It felt like the ABS was working, and he's just testing it here again. Looking back in the field, we have some of the most unique cars in club racing in this class. I love seeing that BMW 1 Series, cars that I recognize from Gran Turismo 2, 3, 4, and now we've got them in this Touring Cup field.
Yeah, again, the diversity of this field has always been why it's so fun to watch, right? You know, not every mousetrap is going to be the perfect one to win a race, but you can certainly run top 15, top 10 with the car that you've always wanted to build. And again, there's a lot of really unique vehicles in this field. But Matan Rosenberg out front. Now, the biggest change to this car this season was the addition of an 8-speed automatic gearbox out of a Chevrolet C7 Corvette. So he's managed to jam that thing into the C5. And again, this car wasn't necessarily a wild outlier on the straight lines before. But again, you give him clear racetrack in a battle for second, he's going to take advantage of it. You can't just give Matan clear road like that.
And I think he might really only get kind of one shot at it. It's going to have to be a really good restart, and I don't even know that he'll be able to complete it unless he gets it done in turn 5 and lead up to turn 6. Otherwise, that Corvette even squirts between the corners pretty well.
Now, if you're Eric Magnussen, you're chasing Matan Rosenberg in this championship. You know, if you're a savvy driver, you'll recognize that clear racetrack for Rosenberg is a bad thing for you. Is there an opportunity to give Tab a really big shove past Matan and sort of upset the apple cart there a little bit?
It's very possible, and it's not technically illegal either. Some light bump drafting, although the race director does pay attention to stuff like that. So it's going to have to be strategic. It's going to have to be well coordinated between drivers who are not necessarily teammates. See a lot of tire weaving and tire warming going on for a couple of cars. Some of the lighter cars, especially Emil Tab, feels he needs a lot of tire temp relative to some of the others. And Lichty also kind of keeping the fronts warm on that C8.
So it looks like lights are out on the safety car. We will be going green next time by. Nice one lap yellow to get things done here. And again, it's going to be tough to know exactly when this race will have to wrap up. On the schedule, it has to wrap up pretty shortly. So maybe we'll get a white and a green. Maybe we'll get 2 laps to go, Tom. But I know that you're not going to get a lot of time, so you have to make it count now. So Emil Tab's got to get up on the wheel. Matan Rosenberg's got to have his mirrors checked. And then Matt Waldbaum has got to manage that right front tire, because that lockup again, especially when you're racing alongside people, Tom, that is not a comfortable feeling to know that your tire could lock up and lose grip. So coming out of turn 14, let's head up the hill here towards the restart zone. Points on the line here, 25 points to the winner for the championship battle as well. So we'll keep an eye on that throughout the weekend. Here they come up under the bridge waiting for the green flag. Green flag drops, and we're back underway in Eibach GLTC here at GRIDLIFE Summer Apex. Baton Rosenberg off to a pretty good launch, but all nice and orderly here amongst the top runners. Now a little side-by-side. Chad Trooper Ronha, Joel Morrison on the attack, and the white flag here. So 1 lap to go, 4 miles left at Road America.
It's another poor start for Ronha. I have to wonder if he's missing a gear that's causing him to lose time in these low-speed restarts, but everybody freight trains him. Look, he's down outside of the top 10, back towards the front. They're pretty single file. The best start was Matt Waldbaum, but he wasn't able to do anything with it. Down into turn 1, 3 wide for Peter Zhang up on the inside of the BMWs there. Down into turn 3, thinks better of it, but they're still side by side for at least 2 of those positions. I think Asbath Muhammad's trying to sweep the outside in the MR2 Spider.
Yeah, trying to go around the outside of Michael Pagano, but it was a pretty good run through turn 1 for Emil Tab. He was only a couple car lengths behind, but now leaving turn 3, he's lost a lot of ground. Now Magnussen's all over him.
V8 intake bellowing behind him, but it looks like he's going to have the position down into the braking zone. Magnussen's been a little bit better, and now Lichty's going to take a look up the inside on Waldbaum as Waldbaum feels the confidence lost in the ABS of that car. Andy Smedegaard's taking a look up the inside of Kyle Hale. Does not have overlap. Maybe he can create it at the last minute. He does. Hale's going to leave him some room. Side by side through 7, 6.
It was a pretty tight fight there. And he just tried to get up the inside at the last second. He did get overlap, and Kyle Hill left him space, but he's still all over the back of that multicolor 222.
Emil Tab did exactly what he needed to do to keep the pressure off, and now he's coming into a section where his car should theoretically be a little bit better, although he hasn't looked particularly special through the carousel here. Maybe that low drag setup on the BMW will offset that, but can he close up just a bit? Look at a Tab running just a bit wider line than you would expect from one of those cars with big tire squeal too.
And he tried to tuck underneath Kyle Hale at the exit of the carousel. Joel Morrison's right behind him, Lewis Chatroop as well. One more run through the kink here. Who's braver on the brakes or the lack of them here? So maybe just a confidence lift, but Baton Rosenberg leads. Everyone else filtering on through, running a little wide as Aranha using all the road, and Cyril Shukla closing in on him.
Aranha's going to take a look to the right of Ryan Power in that new GR86 for his season this year. Running higher up than he has in his ND in the past. They're going to be side by side in the braking zone. Power leaves him some room, and I think he's going to be able to ramp the outside. Andy Smedegaard still not able to get past Kyle Hale in that kind of camo pink BMW. He's actually going to lose a position to Joel Morrison, who gets a run around the outside of 13 somehow and takes up 1 spot. Morrison was absolutely on it for this restart, picking up at least 3 positions.
Yeah, great run there for Joel Morrison, but for Baton Rosenberg, defends. Chatroop off track at 14, gets back on course. 6th win of the season for Baton Rosenberg. The championship leader is going to extend his lead. Emil Tab, 2nd place in the little Miata that could. Then Eric Magnussen, and then it was Aaron Lichty, P4, Waldbaum, P5, and you see the GLTC championship points as they run. Another 25 points for Rosenberg added to the title.
Morrison was able to get by Hale as well. He went from 10th to 6th on that very last lap, and some of that was probably due to Aranha's poor start. I'm gonna chalk that up to the car. There's no way that a driver missed the start that way twice, but that was a fantastic charge on that last lap.
Yeah, note that Eric Catil is not here. 290 points is what he has. Magnussen is now at 283. Wow. So that's going to bring Magnussen past Catil here this weekend. Again, he's going to start dropping races, though, so the math is going to get a little tougher. But interesting to note there that Rosenberg lead is extending with Catil gone and Magnussen down the order a little ways.
Yeah, James Cathers, you saw sitting in 4th, also not present this weekend in his white BMW E36. So that's going to let Matt Waldbaum, if he can get, especially just finish these races, if he can just finish these races, but especially fix that car, he will potentially even pull himself within striking distance of Catil. Looking forward to Lime Rock and the rest. We still race at Lime Rock Park. We race at Autobahn Country Club up in Chicago. We have some races left at Laguna Seca out on the West Coast, and then finally wrapping the season up at Pittsburgh International Race Complex. So we're literally halfway through the season right now, and there is your finishing standings. Baton Rosenberg taking a commanding win, gapping the field by a little bit less on the restart, but was able to just drive away due to all that racing behind. Emil Tab fights for 2nd. That was a great performance in this NB Miata. This new build takes everything he learned from his NA and makes it a little bit better. It's showing massive promise after a couple years down for Miata drivers in general. Eric Magnussen takes the 3rd spot. Those drivers all spread out. Aaron Lichty able to get the position over Matt Waldbaum in the last closing laps here, and all of that shuffling was very important because race 2 is gridded on the finishing position from this race. So drivers like Lichty moving up, Morrison moving up, and more. That's going to be a big change to their weekend because we've speculated that overall gaining positions at this track is relatively difficult.
Yeah, again, just over overtaking in general, you got to be really brave with it, and Kyle Hale did a nice job there. Ryan Power rounds out your top 10. Looking down the rest of the order here, Christian Aranja looking very wild out there, but still managing a top 15. Austin Hurdle, 13th place. Carlos Mendez is up in the mix in the points, so he'd like a good weekend. And teammate Thomas Lathrop in the 84 sits 17th. Michael Pagano and Peter Zhang, Azmuth Muhammad, they split the difference there, Zhang between Muhammad at the very end. And look, the last couple pages here, Tom, Dai Win, Tyson Schweisov in his first event here. That is, I believe, the Z3. Brian Santiago, Jake Jornstad, 26-27.
Yeah, some issues for Jornstad there is usually a little further up the field, and then a handful of mechanicals, nearly 8 cars about not making this full race distance. A little more attrition than we'd actually expect, but maybe not too surprising at this track. The nice part is we do have many hours before our next race, which is happening this evening.
So Eibach GLTC race number 1 complete here from GridLife Summer Apex in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.